Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this opportunity we have to meet in council this day. We're grateful for the trust that has been placed in us by our citizens, and pray that we will serve them well in our deliberations and the things that we discuss and decide that are best for our community. And we pray that thou guide us in the things that we discuss this evening and the decisions we make. And we pray thou guide us in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Well, welcome to the CCW. Welcome to Corey by remote and Mr. Hill representing the Star. Thank you. And any delegations we're going to have. Hope you've had a good week. We will call this meeting to order. Are there any additions added to the agenda? Take a motion to adopt the agenda.
Do that for you.
Thank you. All in favor? Delegations, are we ready? We're 5 minutes early.
Sure, come on. 8-foot table, my 2 points.
Welcome, Mr. Gerry, our tourist information contractor. He wants to talk a little bit about possibly opening the information center. In previous talks, we thought everything would be shut down till August. Now it looks like it might be a little bit different. So the floor is yours if you'd like to talk to us about that, Mr. Scott.
So industry in the region that I'll mention. Proposed I've spoken with the chamber. We normally put out a map, an advertising map with them. That's not happening this year. They're eager to support business. Relates to that. Are hiring in men.
But I'm old and deaf. I can hardly hear you. Can we get a mic up there?
I'll move it over close.
Just mentioning that the Remington, Darren Marty, the acting director there, said that they're trying to get things ready for a launch by June 19th. Right now, it's a soft date. They're watching quite closely and just numbers. Alberta Parks, currently, if you're up to speed on that, day use is permitted. They recommend you be prepared with your own hand sanitizer and toilet paper. Campgrounds are open June 1st at 50% capacity. Waterton Park, day use in many areas. Most bathrooms and picnic shelters are closed. On their site, it says campgrounds will cease taking new reservations for camping accommodation activities until June 21st, 2020, while we assess whether and how these services may be provided. In Pitcher Creek, I reached out to Kootenai Brown Pioneer Village, which is also that museum, but also the visitor center. They're getting their full staff in by June 22nd for a July 2nd opening, and they'll be open 7 days a week. In Tourism Lethbridge, I'm employed there in the marketing department. We're staffed at the moment, taking calls, responding on social media. The building's closed. The IC there will be opening as early as next week. Marketing content has been put out without interruption throughout the COVID pandemic. Montana, effective June 1st, the provisions of the March 30th directive requiring quarantine for non-work related arrivals in Montana will no longer be in effect. Coming into Alberta, the government's pushed out another month past May 19th. So on Canadian Immigration News, it says the borders closed until June 21st for non-essential travel, such as for tourism and visiting family. That's not solid. That could push out again. It has already, and then Head Smashed In, they currently have no information on when they're going to open to the public. So that's some of the stuff in the region. Last week was Tourism Week, and there was a virtual town hall with Destination Canada, Tourist Industry Association of Canada, Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada, Tourism Industry Association of Alberta, and Travel Alberta. Some of the information that came out of that was that Canada can't afford to lose the tourism industry. Tourism is an economic driver, 1.8 million jobs in the sector in Canada. TIAC is actively advocating for government to focus on recovery now. And within the province of Alberta, tourism is the fourth largest industry. So Travel Alberta, if you've been on their website or seen any of the messaging, there's been a shift to local, regional, and domestic travelers. And the announcement that they put out last week was with regards to their cooperative marketing program. So there's $5 million total this year that they're doing. The difference is in years previous, it's been matching funds. This year, it's you don't need to match funds for marketing. I believe some of the international marketing dollars have been rolled into this. Two intake periods, June 1st through June 30th, for focus on trying to get people out this summer. And the other intake is for the fall, for winter season and stuff like that. So Destination Canada, during that town hall, shared some stuff. There is a slide here that I brought that might be helpful. I don't know how to distribute this in COVID times, but it was one of the most helpful slides that was brought up. Reads visitor economy resumes in phases with variance of timing across provincial jurisdictions. And note this was a national body presenting to the Alberta market. So as we move into stage 2, partial lift of restrictions, they're looking at potentially more day trips, some overnights, and a half-day drive to your community, small groups, close family and friends traveling, the types of attractions, including some of the stage 1 ones that they would be focusing on are outdoor attractions, golf courses, smaller leisure attractions, small businesses, so restaurants, retail. Because there are so many restrictions with campgrounds right now at 50% capacity in the provincial campgrounds and challenges with the national ones, there are some opportunities for more sort of hub travel from places that do have hotels, motels, and B&Bs. So anyway, with all that said, things are opening up. The tourism sector is pretty hard hit by this because of all the non-travel restrictions that are out there. I do think, if we follow step with the Ramington, a June 19th opening date would make sense. There are, a lot of information changes happening day by day. People do look to the Visitor Information Center to sort of keep them up to date as they travel, especially if they're not from that area. If they're coming in from a couple hours out, I see to sort of get their bearings and what's going on. And if the travel coming up from the States opens up, that's a lot of those travelers are very uninformed about travel in Canada, and so we're their first stop with proximity to the border. So that's kind of what I propose. I'm open to any questions you guys have at this time.
Okay, so you're proposing June 19th. Is that
June
what your
19th,
proposal is?
yeah.
And we'll probably hear about the border by the 21st. Is that the idea?
Probably hear about which?
About the opening of the
The
border?
border. Yeah, that's on the Canadian side, yeah. Going down is a little bit less restrictive now. So
We have a lot of people coming up from the States using our Tourist Information Center.
yeah, the split is usually about 50%. So that come into the building. So
Madam Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. Just give me a sense, you were to open the Tourist Information Center, would you open it with the same amount of hours as you did last year, or what is a model that you're proposing?
I think within our last renewal, we scaled back hours for this next 3-year term. Knocked an hour off, if I remember correct. That was this time. So
You would use that same model
yeah, it was not,
as in your
yeah,
contract?
it was 9 to 6 previously, and,
Right.
and I proposed that we don't get, by the time 6 o'clock rolls around, a lot of people have found their accommodations for the night. They've already gone to a restaurant. So
Right.
that last hour, we timestamp all our travelers as they come in. So we know when our numbers are higher. And so I think it makes sense to drop that last hour. So 9 to 5.
Okay.
And that falls in line with what we do in Lethbridge and a lot of the other VICs in the area. So
Just a few days ago, the Premier announced that they're not going to continue on with the emergency levels that they have as of the 15th of June. They're shutting her down. 2 days ago, I watched it and watched him say that there's been a lot of flack. The NDP have been on his case about it, but he said that he can't stand by and watch the economy just die. They come up with some facts and figures that were quite interesting. He said that the average age of a person dying of COVID is 83 years of age. He said under normal circumstances in Alberta, the average age of a person dying is 82. So anyway, so he said as far as the government's concerned, they're not going to renew the state of local emergency in the province after the 15th of June.
We hear anything about that officially? Yeah.
No, I watched the video.
I
I've watched it
watched a
twice.
bit of that too, yeah.
No, they're
And
not
this is
probably.
Alberta Health Emergency. Order is from the medical.
Everything is so up in the air right now because the numbers are declining quite rapidly. So I guess we'll just have to wait another couple of weeks. The whole thing could be different again. We just don't know
Yeah.
for sure. Any other questions for Mr. Scott?
So as far as the cleaning of the building and all of that, so you will have the protocol of the
Yeah.
wipes and all of that good stuff in between every patient, every person as they come in, you'll be
yeah.
taking care of it?
Yeah, our daily averages when we're open are about 40 people in the building a day. It's tough to say where those averages will be this year opening up, and a large part depends on the border, loosening their restrictions coming up. But yeah, so I sit I'm the chair of the committee in Lethbridge with the VIC there for the Safety and Wellness Committee, and so we have protocols in place to ensure safety, and that's a higher volume facility for sure. I'll probably just be kind of lifting that and adapting it to the building. The nice thing about the VIC down here in Carson is we have quite a bit more real estate than in Lethbridge, and so keeping people spaced out and putting the brochure racks spaced out appropriately, and bathrooms we don't have lock those open. But yeah, we definitely need to ramp up. We've talked about maybe getting a hand sanitizer station right front and center as people come in. Signage to direct traffic as well. So
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you for your presentation. I guess we will discuss this opening, or is it going to happen on the 19th? We'll have to discuss it later today.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, good.
We're a little bit early for our second delegation, so maybe we go to number 5, adoption of the minutes. The last council from the last CCW. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any discussion on those minutes? Is there anything out of place there that I could tell? All in favor? Thank you. Now, I don't know if we want to get into the bylaw right now or not. We got about 7 minutes before Mr. Beamer's supposed to show up. Start on that and put a break on it when he gets here, or should we? Yeah.
It may be beneficial for when Darcy's here that we can just kind of go through it and get his feedback on each point.
Right.
This is driven by him largely, so these are things over the years he'd like to see amendments to. So it may do us well just to wait, and then we can go through it systematically and not jump back and be very repetitive.
Okay. I think 6B is going to take us a little bit of time as well, so a dead spot right now. 7A.
Done,
7A, again, we're not quite sure what's happening with the AUMA this year.
yeah.
What's your gut feeling on it? No, or yes or no?
Well, why I put it on the agenda was twofold. One is if it happens, I don't know. That's such a huge conference. We got 1,400 delegates or something when it's at its peak.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll happen like it normally does. But if it does, I was just a little concerned about hotel costs in Calgary are really up there. And so whether everyone will want it to go, or really more what I wanted to talk about tonight was if it doesn't happen, and my suspicion is it won't, what do we want to do for a planning session? We can schedule it at any time. Now we don't have to wait until September, or we could really do it whenever. So I just wanted to throw that out so we could start having some thoughts around that agenda.
I really think it would be a good idea to start to put a date towards the planning sessions, regardless of AUMA. And I also think that maybe this year we have not involved the public directly, but there's maybe a place for us to try to garner some ideas from the public. And there is a model, I talked about it when I was interviewed by Mrs. Christensen, I think her name is. And the model goes as follows. It has been tested in Alberta. So councillors, 2 by 2 or something of that sort, go to where there is a high traffic, could be on the front of a rec facility if they're open, or in the mall, or at the food store, somewhere where there's traffic. And you are there from council, not only to be visible to the public, but also if they come to ask some questions or to engage them as toward, for example, ideas for strategic planning, things that I would like to see addressed for the betterment of the town. So I think it wouldn't be a bad thing to start to be a little bit more proactive in trying to go to the people because they're not coming here.
Yeah. Are you suggesting we advertise and tell councillors are going to be at this spot at a certain time, or
I think so.
or just show up?
Something
and
like that, yeah. Just to give them a different venue, especially in those times, we don't really know how much longer we're going to have to be really separated or can't have a public forum of any sort. So it's maybe a different way to garner information on specific topics.
Yeah. Yeah, the thoughts on that?
It has been, do you remember, Jeff, which town tried it? Was it Leduc or was... remember, but we went to a presentation on public engagement, and that was something that was shared. And I thought, gee, I like the idea. It's worth trying.
Councillor Selk.
Second thing is, with respect to AUMA, I think there's value in attending, but I think what I find offensive, Jeff, is that the letter put out by AUMA says that
Yeah.
for hotels. you're having this convention and you want to.
I'll tell you on that, it was interesting. I went on to some of I went onto the site for hotels. So you can get a hotel for like $280 if you do the non-refundable. But if you want refundable, it was about $375.
Oh, my goodness.
And I
Otherwise,
right. Then you're
downtown is
commuting in
phenomenal.
from the south side or something where it's more affordable.
Yep.
That's my thought.
Or we could just rent some office space that's vacant in downtown.
That's true.
Take our cots up there and have a sit.
Pack a sleeping bag and away we go.
Yeah,
I never thought about that.
I was surprised at the price. I didn't realize that downtown Calgary was doing so well all of a
Well, then
sudden.
there's about another $40 a night taxes on top of that price, right?
Yeah.
and then you have the parking.
Yeah.
Something to think on anyhow. So I guess we'll discuss a little bit more about at least the these meeting and having a planning session. I mean, we can do that just about anywhere. We can book the Bab Hotel and eat at the steak place. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you know what? We did it a few times in the museum.
Yeah. So,
Those are truly public meetings,
Mike.
so
you know.
well, something we'll discuss a little bit later on in this meeting as well if we need to. Okay, welcome Darcy, Mr. Beamer, here to discuss the a review of the garbage bylaw. We've all got that piece of paper there in front of us on our screens. You added some stuff today, did you?
What I did is when I sent it out, we were having a weird thing with Adobe where the notes were embedded. You had to click on them, and then
Yeah.
we got it
Didn't
figured
come
today where
through.
we could get them to the side. We have a print marriage should already.
Hey, did you want to start this, or did Darcy want to talk to us about it, or?
I'll start us off and then I'll go through each part and then Darcy, get your perspective.
Okay.
So Darcy and JD and I met, it's been 10 days ago or so now, I think.
Before you start, I really want to express appreciation of Darcy for what he does. It can't be easy. People are throwing this and that at you all the time, and I've never heard you complain about anybody. So thank you very much for what you do.
And I like the chocolate candies.
Yeah,
So over a couple of years, we've talked about little bits and pieces of the bylaw. I had to meet and go through it and talk about what's working, what's not working as well, reasonable to enforce, what's more difficult, all those kinds of things. And so we decided it would do well in a committee meeting just to have some discussion about what's working, what isn't, and then we can look at areas. There's political ramifications to some of these things as well as logistic ones. And so we'll have a discussion here and get Darcy's perspective, and then you. So the first one is in the definitions. It's the definition of a garbage receptacle. Darcy runs into, and I'll let him speak to it a little more, but runs into all manner of interesting contraptions to hold garbage. Some a little safer than others, some with razor sharp edges and some that weigh 200 pounds. But the discussion was maybe looking at defining that more clearly so that it is.
well, and I think we're here because there a couple of weeks ago, an individual phoned into the town and complained why her garbage cans are always on the side, never, and the lid's not on them. And was because she's got her lids chained to the can. So I'm dealing with, there's a few that have their lids tied or chained to the can. And so when I'm dealing with it, you can't hang on to the lid and the can. So the lid's hanging free and it's hitting me everywhere, and it's a safety hazard. It's also pulls garbage back out sometimes out of the truck because garbage falls on, like it goes in the thing. But anyways, that's why we really came and started talking. Jeff had me come in and go over all these concerns. There's cans that are too large, too big to handle. They don't have handles. They're makeshift. They're like a 45-gallon water drum that they cut the lid off the top, or and so they're just awkward to handle. Plus, they easily fill up over the weight limit. they're open to the weather. They fill up with rain, they fill up with snow, you know, and so then that adds to the weight. Big thing is what people put their garbage in, contain it, namely these homemade structures that we see on the side of the streets, boxes built. I'll give you the example going up, and Jill, we've talked about it before, these homemade things that they have on the curb that are an eyesore, that they start piling the garbage up. The day I pick it up, it sits there. You go up the South Hill right now, and the one on the right-hand side just past the hotel, we're all familiar with that one probably. It is plain as day. It's already filled up with garbage piled up over the top, out. It's the first thing you see when you come into town, when you leave. It's 1 inch off the sidewalk. No, it's just, that one I can access it. The ones that have lids on them, that have a latch that I have to open and then pull the garbage out, you know, they're 3-4 feet high, some of them.
Okay.
One I've got, he's got a tire rim sitting in front of the doors because they don't latch or hold. I have to throw the tire rim out of the way to get into it. In the wintertime, it's froze. I got to pull my hammer out, knock it now and then, get it loose. My feeling is that it should all be out and on the curb. Now, some of these are on the curb. So.
Gonna speak for my own. Or I used to put my garbage can out on the curb. I realized it was a hassle for me and you. I just put my garbage can in the garage and took a plastic bag out of the garbage can and put it on my curb. You know, put it in a garbage receptacle, put it in your own garage, and it's out of sight, out of mind. And then put it on the curb in a plastic bag. Like
My problem,
day
with-
of.
my problem with the plastic bag on the curb is the birds and animals. If it's out there for a couple hours, it could scatter pretty good. So I usually leave mine in a garbage can. That's my only concern is, otherwise I could do that, but then I have to pick up everything else that the birds get into, so.
Well, I sit on the step with a pellet gun to take care of this.
That's a thought too. I never thought about that, so yeah.
See, there's something I am trying to understand in this bylaw, because all what you talked about, which is the weight of those receptacles, or the awkwardness to lift that, to put the garbage in your truck, or to access it, is not indicated in that bylaw. So I think if there is an amendment that needs to be done, that is regarding the type of structure that would allow for the garbage bag to be in, because from what we're talking about, that is where the issue really is. It's the lids that kind of hit you, the rim that are there to close the enclosure. It's the weight of the container in which the garbage bags are and the open to the air. So somehow none of this is there.
And Shem, this afternoon, Shem and I talked about that. He mentioned that
Yeah.
really that should define what and he went and looked at a bunch of different cities, towns, and what they all specify. And he found up to like 40 liters or 40 gallons, 189 liters. Now, it comes down to the garbage cans. They go into the store down to Pro Hardware. I know they get some of them down there, and they're big black ones. They're okay to lift when they're not 80, 90 pounds, right? They tend to, when the bigger they are, the more garbage they can go into it and the heavier it gets. But they are a can that's sold as a garbage can from a store, right? So they, he mentioned that we need to define up to, okay, we'll accept one up to 189 liters. They sell them downtown. Anything more, and we don't accept it. And that would take care of the, the big blue water drums that they cut the top off and think it's a garbage can. And now there are people that have the totes from Automatic that have but they're fine. They take it out there. They just have garbage bags. I pull the garbage bags out. I never do lift them. They're not the problem.
Okay.
It's the ones that tie their lids. Now, and he mentioned, specify that if it comes, and there are garbage cans that are sold with lids, and those are fine. They're attached. They're not flopping around. They're manageable. You can deal with it, right? You can handle them. No problem. So if you have to, going to put a garbage can out there, it has to be within what you ever deem as proper, and that it has to be a commercial grade. It can't be a homemade garbage can. It has to be one that you purchase from the store.
So I've lived in other places, and other places there's the law and you do it, and if you don't, you get fined. Because when we lived in Calgary, if we had more than 2 garbage bags out, and this is a long time, this is like 20 years ago, if you put out more than 2 garbage bags, and they even specified the size of the garbage bag, then you get fined if it was more than that. Or the garbage man would take the 2 and leave the 3rd. So we also have to, in here, I understand and appreciate where you're coming from, but I also feel like we got to nip it in the bud at the same time and say, or there won't be change, right? If you keep emptying the garbage for the sweet old lady that's got the chain and all that nonsense, the expectation is she's going to keep doing it, even if we put it into the bylaw. They need to be told. So we somehow have to put that into this bylaw so that they're aware there's been a change. He's sweet, but he's not going to do it anymore because he's got 400 of you that are doing it. And I actually have a question as well. So from what I'm understanding, businesses, any business, but those big rollaway ones that we pull to the front and we leave at the curb that have the garbage bags in them, you're saying those are okay though, because you just pull the garbage out?
Well, the businesses, they don't have, those are residents, like Sean Olson.
Well, no, I'm thinking a little closer to where I work. We roll them out.
Oh, those two, yeah.
Are those
Those
okay?
are fine, right? I
Okay.
take those. But you see, and the thing about those is they throw loose stuff in there as well. And so if you look in yours,
Yeah.
in the bottom, there's, because I don't, I can't,
Okay.
I'm not dumping it and I'm not fishing out
Yeah.
loose stuff. I pull
For
the
sure.
bags out and
But as long as you can pull the bags out, you're fine
those
with
are
it.
fine.
Okay.
I wouldn't have, that wouldn't be a concern
Okay.
where I'd say.
Okay. Thank
Did
you.
we not have a discussion on this like years ago where we said 4 bags or 4 containers or?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
so
do
there's a
have
limit
But
to
an
the
extra
number.
bag, you had to have a $2 tag on it or something.
Yeah.
So people will not put 4 garbage bags in one container. But they're small garbage bags, that's for sure. But
We need to have a little more discussion on that because what you find, Darcy, I think you would concur with this. Limit the amount at the curb, but it's still being generated by the home. It goes somewhere.
The
It doesn't
neighbors,
magically disappear.
Yeah.
It's still, a lot of times I can tell you, I shouldn't blame him. It goes to the neighbor who's only got 1 bag or 2 bags, and the other neighbor who only has 2. Everyone's got 4. Fact matter is I don't know how effective it's been in reducing overall. Even to the transfer station eventually. Not convinced it's reducing volume. I don't know what you've seen.
Well, it has for some, and and it goes back to Councilwoman Brown there in her 50 years. Garbage has been done the same way in town. My grandpa we've been doing it. We've been catering, not necessarily catering, just okay, this is what I'm doing it, right? I don't like to rock the boat. We probably wouldn't be here if the lady that phoned complained about the can lids, because I probably wouldn't have ever, like, it's dealt with.
I didn't
'Cause I
drag you
enjoy-
here as a punishment, right?
Yeah, it does need to, from here on, or whenever the amendments come and we start, then this is how it is. And
So we need to standardize this a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do take more than 4 bags.
Yes, you do.
I
Thank
take 6, 7, because, and maybe it's my fault when I said 4 bags or 4 cans. Well, 4 cans will hold more than 4 bags. So when we've got 8 bags, okay, I'm not, the ones that have 15 now and then, I'll take it all and leave one and put a tag saying we do have a limit. But generally, I haul it because, like Jeff said, it goes somewhere, either to the neighbor or to the dumpsters, which is a whole other issue that we could spend hours on. Legal dumping.
Councillor Barn.
Yeah, so do we not have a 40-pound limit on?
Mhm.
Wait,
And, okay, so are you finding that there are some that are
oh yeah, right.
consistently more than that?
Yeah, and I mentioned to Shem, the lady with her big black garbage cans that are
Yeah.
legal underneath, but they're full of diapers.
Yeah.
So which is fine, but if it's in 2 smaller cans, it's manageable. When it's full,
Yeah.
it's now 80 pounds instead of 40,
And I think where I'm coming from is we have to get a standardized rule and regulation out there and let them know that if that bag is more than the 40 pounds, it will get picked up. They're going to have to deal with it themselves.
Mhm.
And
or
yeah,
the
for the
can
first,
or whatever.
or the can. Well, when you get into homemade stuff, that can itself could be 30 pounds before you even put any.
There are some that are
Yeah.
heavy metal ones,
That's right. And so it's an education. People have to be
Yeah,
educated.
and it falls back to me, like it'll eventually come. And I do have a handheld scale, 100 pound, for
Yeah.
to weigh the occasional one that I feel like, okay, I pull it up, it's 80. I'm still pulling and it's past 80, and
You just leave it.
so I'll tag it and leave it. But it's not that I can't lift it, but
No.
it's.
But it is a safety factor, Darcy.
Yes,
You
and
have to be
I throw
careful.
my back out. I'm the only one that's not because he threw out 8. It's because I took it. It should have been left because it was past our set weight limit.
You have to consider your safety and your health of your back and your body. That's all there's to it. We're not getting younger, Darcy.
Yes.
So that was you to take care of yourself too.
Mr. Selk.
So in the draft the amendment to as the advertisement on the box says it will carry up to 80 pounds, doesn't mean you should fit 80 pounds in there.
I can swear we really need to standardize some kind of garbage containers for sure.
Well,
I didn't realize people were using old burn barrels for garbage cans now, but we want to move on to
Well,
some of the
there's not a lot. There's a few. Okay.
Only takes one.
there shouldn't be any. I'll move on with
Yeah,
the,
so the next one's on page 3. It's part 2, section 5, and it talks about how we will take cardboard at the curb, provided it's broken down. Now, it's rarely broken down. It's usually brings up a bigger point we got talking about last time is that cardboard is not going to be recycled.
That's a
Going to the
problem.
transfer station. So the question is, should we be picking up cardboard at the curb? You can take it to the facility, that's where it goes. We need to figure that out a little bit too.
So is there not a
awesome.
one out at the transfer
There's
station?
one
Like
behind
there's,
the Royal Bank, there's 2 recycling center.
right.
There's one out at the,
Three at the recycling center.
there's one out at the dump. You can put it in the
Yeah,
trailer
there's one at
there.
the dump.
Personally, I really feel that if cardboard is still a recyclable that we can dispose of as a recyclable, we should. No reason with all the bins that are around and at the transfer station that we need to throw our cardboard in the garbage.
Part of the problem with some of the cardboard or the packaging, for example, it sticks inside the cardboard. You got all kinds of stuff you have to kind of try and dig out and scrape away. So you have to be a little bit careful about. Yeah.
That's, the plastic wrap on the fast gas. And then you see, and comes down to, there's no money in recycling.
No,
That's
we know
another
that.
That's the
issue.
hard part.
Yeah,
And so the handicap association, they bring up all that, and then they have to spend time ripping off all this plastic off just to recycle this cardboard that we can hardly get rid of.
but
Yeah.
that's a little bit a matter of education, because it's very
continuous.
clear, if the cardboard is not clean, it's garbage. If the cardboard is clean, it's recyclable. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Any soiled cardboard should not be recycled. Any cardboard that is filled with plastic should not be recycled. So there is a certain amount that will have to go in the trash.
Mhm.
There is no doubt. But the one that is clean, while they still can get the cardboard picked up, maybe we should try to do a little bit better as a town.
Cardboard, it's the ones that, most of the cardboard that gets out to the curb is just thrown on the ground. It's not bundled or tied. I get, loose stuff. It should all be bundled if I'm gonna take it. And it
Button.
does say it, and that falls back to me, but if I leave it on the winch, then it's blowing and it's the other neighbor's problem and it's another, it just goes down and down the road.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a tough thing to where, the town might have no more cardboard. And I tell lots of people, go to any of those green recycled cardboard bins. You can.
A lot of the loose stuff, cereal boxes and stuff
Cereal
like that.
boxes.
Yeah.
They just throw them out on the ground.
Yeah. Selk and Councillor.
Back to the cardboard. Cardboard needs to. Garbage bags, we don't know that.
Regardless, is going to the dump.
Yeah. That's contained.
Contained.
Yeah.
Darcy's right. I can tell from cardboard wall
Yeah.
up by the recycling center.
It's a tough one right now.
Councillor Brown.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think it's a double-edged sword right now with the whole cardboard, because what the love are we going to do with it? We can bundle it up all cute and box it up and have our big wall, but we can't sell it. We can't get rid of it. So should it be going into the landfill? I don't have that answer. It's frustrating, but I do think we should either do like Councillor Selk said, either we're not going to accept it at the curb and have them deal with it themselves, or we accept it and we're done. Like, got to be one way or the other.
Well, as long as it's bagged, again, I don't see a problem if it's bagged. Councillor Barnes.
Okay. I think I brought this up at least once a year at council meetings about the environmental impact of incineration. We burn a huge amount of wood every year at the dump site, but yet everybody's scared spitless to burn some cardboard in an incineration bin that's got screening and everything like that. Personally, I don't have a problem with incineration. If we're burning wood and all that kind of stuff anyways, it would solve a huge problem. with the cardboard in this town. So I don't know what the laws are regarding incineration in Alberta. Is there a Alberta environmental no-no about doing that? Because I think we need to decide something. We've been talking about this. This is going on my 7th year in council. Every year we discuss about cardboard. And every year I ask the same question. And I think we need to address it somehow. So we're not having walls of cardboard and cardboard going into landfills all the time.
Okay, we can't be the
Somehow
only,
we gotta do
we
something.
can't be the only community dealing with this. Has there been
Oh,
anything, has there been anything
I
said
think
provincially?
every community in Alberta is
Everybody.
trying to deal with it.
Environment in Alberta come out with anything at all, Jeff, that you know of? So as far as
Well,
burning
maybe
it
that's
goes,
what we
that's
need
gotta
to
be
do.
some regulations that we can't just. I don't know how that would work. Regulation, when you're doing the wood pile, just throwing a few extra boxes of.
Well,
I don't
okay, can I throw another, for instance, out there? I drive out in the country a lot and I see an awful lot of big, humongous incineration bins with the smokestacks on them. The Hutterites are making them, they're selling them to people. Everybody in the countryside that has one is incinerating. Nobody's coming down on them. And they're doing it. And obviously there's a market for doing that, but I'm where I came from in Southern Ontario, they used to have humongous big incineration bins with fine screening so that it wouldn't go all over the place. And of course they would incinerate on a day that wasn't windy. And here we got the wood burning thing out there with no screening. And so we have to be
Fire
careful.
trucks sitting out there in case it gets out.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think that's my feeling that we need to look at. I really do.
We could look into it. I'm not so sure if we got the jurisdiction to just start burning stuff. I'm not 100%.
Well, that's why I'm saying we need to look at it and stop wondering, you know.
One or two more comments and we'll move on. Councillor Brown.
No, I just Googled it really quick just to see if there was anything. And the only thing it says is you are not allowed to burn cardboard that has the coating on it. So if it's coated,
There you go.
then you can't. The wax is my understanding.
Grocery ones,
Yeah,
cauliflower, broccoli, those type of things.
exactly. So if it's uncoated, then you're good to go. Burn away.
Yeah.
Second question is where do you burn it at? But anyhow.
Well,
Well, what, years ago, council. And in the school,
Puddle. Puddle?
Joe,
Who?
he,
Oh, Walker.
yeah,
Mr. Walker.
he mentioned that's what we should build a big compound, a fine screen on it and burn it.
I agree.
Because back then, there was no market for cardboard.
Is there anything else on 5, 1 and 2 we need to discuss?
Paula, we said that there's a time and a manner that it has to be set out at. Darcy, we were discussing, I think if we were to set that at a time because it gets ambiguous for people. So, and you'd like it earlier?
I was looking to move it to 8 o'clock.
My only concern again on that is if I put it out at 8 and you don't come till 11, it gives a lot of animals a chance to tear that thing apart.
Yeah, but you look at Raymond and Lethbridge cities, their garbage has to be out at 7 and they don't get there till 2 or 3.
We've all got those things with lids on
Well,
top
some
of
of
them
them,
too.
yeah, now most of them are all automated, but it was still that way before when it was by hand, you know, like
Yeah.
they were out earlier.
I just
9
happen to know when
o'clock is-
Darcy's coming by, so I
Yes,
see about a half an hour before it gets there.
Well, you know, most people set their clocks about, you know, if I'm not, the town gets a call saying, well, he's my garbage. not running
My
out."
wife says I clock by Darcy's garbage pickup.
You're too regular on the pickup. I know exactly when you're gonna be at my place, so. Any other comments on that? So you prefer it to be out at 8 o'clock?
Well, even 8:30. And that's not unreasonable. People should be.
Yeah.
8 o'clock
Out.
is fine.
Let's be tired, guys. We have our.
Oh my
But
God.
you know, if I can start the residents at 8, it's done sooner,
Yeah.
Exactly.
right?
Again, a problem I might see with that, and Councillor Selk mentioned this, if we make it 7:30 or 8 or 8:30, people are gonna put it out the night before. And then again, there's that chance that it's gonna get scattered to the wind, but again, I can understand your reasoning as well on that, so.
And there are plenty of people that put it out the night before, there's some that have it out the week before, that leave their can out on the street all week.
Some of us in wind
You know,
prone
sit
areas.
out there all week and then they just bring it out as they come and then
Some of us in wind prone areas, it's a little dangerous putting it out too early, but anyhow. Okay,
The next one, Councillor, and this one's quite interesting, is private properties pick up garbage. It out to the road or the curb. Normally they have a very long driveway. Normally there's a reason for that. It's not as convenient. Curb, obviously. But the question is, well, Darcy has one that he has to balance of his liability as a contractor. Contracting him if he wrecks somebody's lawn. Backs over a kid's bike, hits the house. There's all these things now when you're on private property that come into play. And so we're having some discussion about try and limit that. First of all, we just have to take a hard line that has political support. That's one. Or there are some instances, Darcy can speak to, where there is some sense in him going on the property. Favor or some type of agreement between that person. Why they need it, first of all, and so it's deemed giving any liability that the contractor would have should something happen on the property. Because I would say when you get stuck in the winter, it's mostly on property. That's where we're pulling you out from. Somebody's driveway. And that was just another consideration.
I think there's merit in it.
yeah, and I don't mean to pick on Mr. Strang here, but he's one for an example where I drive into his place and around and I stop and pick up his garbage. Now it's easy to get around there, not a problem. In the wintertime, and he'll agree that sometimes, and I have been stuck in his place before and shoveled and got myself out, but there has been times where I haven't come through his place because I felt like I'm not going to take the chance of getting stuck. And he'll take it out to he realizes that and it'll have brought it out to the road. But down that Home Seekers, I go up all those private drives. Some on 10th Street, Sean Olson, Wendell Olson, that, I don't know what street that is up there.
Yeah.
They bring theirs out. Wendell Olson, he has lately been bringing his out to the road, but today it was back up by his garage. So I drive, then I have to back into his place. Sean Olson, he's a good one. Love those guys though, but don't get me wrong. And they're one of the ones that have the big tub totes, right? Automatic, but they just have their garbage bags inside. Well, they bring it out 10, 15 feet from the road instead of to the road. And so I have to, and then I back into his driveway to, to get back to his can.
have you talked to these people about the problems?
No, I never.
Maybe.
I'm too nice.
Put a few extra candies and then talk to them.
In my mind, sorry whoever owns the big properties, but you need to bring it out to the road. It's not the garbage collector's job to drive into your yard to pick up your garbage and bring it back out again. And I know that can be inconvenient for people that have to do long driveways, like I mentioned on Home Seekers and that. But if you want the garbage collected, you maybe need to bring it out to the road. But that's just my thought.
Well, most of those Home Seekers, I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with Mr. Strang there, and his is easy. Like Jeff said, the waiver.
Yeah.
If okay, fine, I'll come in. Kind of thing. If I don't get it in the wintertime, it's okay. Obviously, he felt like he was going to get stuck, so he didn't bother. I better get it out to the road if he looks like I'm not going to do if he feels like, but it's the Sean Olson and the Wendell Olson and those can take it out the other 10, 15 feet.
Yeah.
But I guess the suggestion is that you tell them that, or else it won't get picked up.
It won't get picked up, yeah. Exactly.
Councillor Brown.
But this is a Jeff question. Is it us, why wouldn't we tell it? And by we, I mean you, sorry. But why wouldn't we as the town tell them? Why is the expectation that Darcy would? Like, I feel like if I knew, Darcy, that you wanted me to bring it this way and do it this way, I would do it that way for you. But if I don't know the expectation, I'm dropping the ball. So I feel like, it's not the Sean Olsen we're not talking about individual people here, but it's, if we know the expectation, we're happy to do it, but we need to know what that is. And isn't it us as the town that could send out a notice saying, here's a waiver, Mr. Strang, we're going to come and you're going to sign the waiver, or you're not getting garbage picked up, or you know what I mean? Or Paula Brown with your hugely long driveway, you need to take it 2 more feet. That would be appreciated. I don't feel like it's Darcy's job to go door knocking and say, these are my expectations. Like, is it us? Like, isn't it?
It's our bylaw.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I feel like it's not him. It's up to him to tell us what his expectations are, and it's up to us as council to hear it and see what we can do to appease the people and you, because you're valuable to us.
So Mr. Beamer needs to let us know who's violating the,
Agreed.
He's aware of the.
He knows.
and you can let the town know and we can let them know.
And that's the hard part in town. When you're friends with everybody,
Exactly.
you know everybody.
I know what you're
you just
saying.
don't,
I wouldn't be offended. I'd be glad to know.
But we can be
Agreed.
right.
That's my point.
That's our job.
And honestly, I don't think it's being a bad guy. It's just common sense.
Education too.
It's an educational thing. I know that if the roads are clear and it's not winter time and stuff, there's no big deal. But the liability is still there if there's an issue. And a waiver is a simple way of handling that. But in the winter time, if you've got a long driveway, it's 300 yards to the house, and there's a foot of snow, you don't go there unless it's been plowed out. And most of these fellows have got a plow to plow them out. They know ahead of time, but Mother Nature doesn't care about time frames, so do they?
Okay, let's move on.
Yep.
Page 5. This is back to, we touched on this already. We have a few people that like curbside bins, set them against the sidewalk. You have carabiners to keep them closed. Have some discussion whether or not we want those on. Stored all week long on the boulevard.
that's my thought too. But
I don't see the need.
How many of those?
there's,
Doesn't?
about it.
Yeah.
I remember a conversation, Darcy, you and I had when I owned the apartment building. I built that little wooden bin there. And then after about 6 or 7 months, you saw me there and you said, come and take a look in here. And we looked in the bottom, it was just full of loose garbage. And that was the tenants in that apartment building, that they were not being careful. I had a talk with all my tenants in there. I don't know if that worked out. I don't even know, do they still have the bin there, or do they?
It's still there.
They're still there. Is that a nasty thing?
Um,
See that one gone too?
Not so much. A couple of times over the years, it has been
Mm-hmm.
like maybe
Yeah.
bagged and stuff.
And there again, there's some education that needs to be dealt with people.
Yeah, and so that, say for instance, that box, that's sitting on Town Boulevard, isn't it?
Yep.
We'll need to discuss that as a council.
So.
What I really think, Darcy, is that if we change a bylaw, it has to be applicable to everybody,
Yep.
not only to the nice guy, but to the bad guy, to everybody. It has to be consistent. Otherwise, it's driving you crazy.
Yeah.
So if we're consistent with the bylaw, you apply the bylaw. I don't like it, I can call it down. because you shouldn't be the one who has to be the recipient of the nastiness. I know you do get it from time to time. But it's an issue with the bylaw, it's not with the operator. And we can do a better job communicating that to household.
So that's something we'll have to decide on the curbside, if we want to get them off the
Yeah.
curbs or not. Next one is 7C, is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, this one is have rates for commercial institutions. Here, Manor is the example.
Yeah.
And I have been.
He does it anyway, but we don't have a different rate for that.
I thought was they're a resident. They just like Greg Burt. He paid that rate, but they can. If I do a week, then they're picked up more than Greg Burt has been picked up. Pays the same amount as a resident, right? I don't know what they pay as a resident at that place for garbage or what you charge them, but.
Probably be the same.
I was gonna ask Bart to put another garbage can there. Garbage, and sometimes the crap that and the town's aware of it, and they called whoever owns it now to come clean it up because they throw everything out there on blah, blah, blah.
Maybe we need to look at what can actually go in that dumpster too. If they're throwing TVs in there, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Well, we
have a place for
On
that.
the outside of the dumpsters, most of them.
Yeah, we have a place for TVs.
Yeah.
They need to be going up there to the recycling center.
Cardboard, we have a question is, those are just going to the landfill. Do we want to prohibit that at the curb where it has to go to the burn pile? Now we're just burning it there. It's not like, but we do allow for it. It's an odd one.
Well, I probably know why we've allowed that, because somebody is 85 years old is cleaning up their yard. How are they going to get it out to the landfill? And we've been nice guys, and instead of making them hire somebody to haul it away from their place, we just had them bundle up, have Darcy haul it. So I don't know the answer to that one, except for maybe they need to figure out a way to get out there themselves.
There is twice a year pickup, isn't it, Jeff?
Yep.
One in the fall, one in the spring.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's not that we don't have the provision,
Right.
because I remember pushing those ideas for that pickup twice a year.
We can definitely look at and change if we need to. Councillor Barnes, you have
I
something?
was just going to say the same thing. I think we have it twice a year, and it's an education piece again. People need to be aware that that's when it is. And if they're going to be cleaning up their yard, and like where I live, where I used to live, I moved down Darcy. I have probably almost 100 trees in that backyard. And I do spring cleanups 5 to 6 times a year because of the wind. I'm constantly getting snap branches and I'm cleaning it up. And I used to pile it in one corner of the yard and wait until it was recycle time and then haul it out to the site. And that's what I did. And people need to be educated that you can't just keep on cleaning that stuff and taking it out to this thing, because there's poking through the garbage bags, all that stuff. And you shouldn't have to take yard refuge in your garbage truck.
We state that in the thing, the taxes that go out in the little pamphlet talking about the garbage. It says that we don't take yard.
Yeah.
Such a long. Have a sticker that says yard. Sort of contradicts itself.
Well, yeah, I don't even know why we have it here, because it says you're not picking up that stuff, so why is that even here?
And if it is, you just
Nice
put a
guys,
sticker on it,
that's why.
sorry, it's yard waste, all of it yourself.
Shouldn't be there.
Okay, well, this is good that we've gone through and picked this apart a little bit. And I'm glad you were able to come and give us your point of view. And we'll have to definitely look at some of the things that have been highlighted here as a council and make some changes probably. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Darcy.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome to stay or welcome to go, whatever you like to do.
We'll do better.
Pardon me.
We'll do better. Sorry.
Doing great.
Mhm.
Hopefully I can keep doing great. Thanks a lot.
It's Peter.
We have another 6 o'clock delegation. Is on the screen.
There, I've asked them to unmute. Hey, Russ?
Hello.
Hi, Peter.
There we are.
How are you all doing today?
Good.
Excellent. Jeff, how much time would you like me to take?
Short and sweet, Peter, I think. I mean, I'll leave it up to the chair here, but you know, that's always a
I like
better
that.
meeting is the short and sweet.
Yep, that sounds good to me.
Got it. May I share my screen? I hear you if you're talking.
Yes, you can. And you should be.
Okay. Host has disabled participant screen sharing.
That doesn't sound very nice of me.
Whoever's hosting it, they just want to go to the share screen button on the bottom and click the little up arrow beside it. And you can change the settings there for screen sharing.
There, we got it. Okay, you should be good.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me here today. Am I coming through loud and clear and unbroken?
Yes.
I won't take up too much of your time. Jeff asked me to come today to give you an update on what Selk is working on, particularly pertaining to the economic recovery due to the COVID-19 crisis. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of that, a brief rundown of some of the economic numbers that we're facing and dealing with, and that'll be the extent of the bad news, and then I'll talk about the good news and how Selk is tackling the recovery head on. So what you're looking at here is an overview of what has been titled the Lethbridge Region Economic Recovery Task Force. Now, if I was in on the branding, we would have called it something different. But the good and the bad of it is that economic development Lethbridge came to Selk in the early days of the crisis when I was still trying to figure out which way was up as my children were thrust upon me. Well, my kid and my friend's kid, and doing crazy emergency home care and figuring out which way life was. And they had a plan to partner together with a number of different organizations to all pool our resources so we could attack this monster. Frankly, that was a game saver because being able to pull off an initiative like the one we have been able to pull off with the resources Selk has available, it just wouldn't have flown. So we sat down and we built out this plan that you're looking at here with the 6 different work streams to tackle what we thought would be important to tackle. And of course, the devil was in the details, and we ended up building the plane in the air, as they say. It was chaotic at first, but eventually we got everything pulled together. Now, our first priority was to make sure that everybody had access to updated resources in the region. That anybody who wanted to could go to one central spot and access resources and see what was available and get in touch with the resources there. And it was our job to keep everybody updated in those early days when things were changing daily. Number 2 was to be able to put in place a system in which anybody in the entire region could call into a number and get help on the phone or over Zoom and work with somebody one-on-one to deal with their specific scenario. Our attitude was for every employer and every employee who's able to access the resources they need to get to the other side of this crisis, that was a win. and those wins would stack up. So we got a website built. There's a one-stop shop website that's available both on selk.com, and Economic Development Lethbridge has one set up too. And all of the resources are there, and we can funnel people to them and funnel them out to the supports, and we send out updates. And the entire region has a hotline as well. And the number's been advertised widely that anybody can call and get help. That number goes through to me and to one of 6 other people and to a couple of staff people who are sitting at desks at Economic Development Lethbridge right now. And they can help them with their specific issue, or they can refer them to some of the other volunteers we have on board. So anybody in the region has been able to access for about a month and a half now, legal advice, financial advice, banking advice, recruiting and training advice, HR advice, all of the above. Some really, really good professional resources, which is probably the biggest win for this initiative so far. We've had a actual physical location donated to our effort in downtown Lethbridge by the University of Lethbridge. So when social distancing requirements end, people will be able to book actual in-person appointments to go and sit down one-on-one with one of those experts to talk about the specific challenges that they're facing as well. So funding for that, Economic Development Lethbridge threw in a bunch of money. Southgrow matched the money that they put in. We contributed, the board all voted to contribute to that. And the Lethbridge Chamber threw in a bunch of money too. And there is a large number of other organizations who have donated, mostly in kind, to this initiative as well, to assist with it. And since we are the largest organization or group of organizations in Southern Alberta working on this problem, we're starting to tap into a lot of grant programs. So workforce retention and development, the 5th priority over there, that's the stream that I've been leading with a committee of people pulled from the region, some of our economic development officers, some people who work for the government of Alberta, and some people who work for private industry as well. We've been running a skill gap study that we started last fall, identifying labor issues in all of southwestern Alberta. It's a partnership that we have with Alberta Southwest and a few other partners too. Now, we pivoted that project, which was already started and was already collecting data, to account for the new situation we find ourselves in, because we didn't want to end up on the backside of this with data that was useless. The second thing we did is we hired a company called CAI Global, which is a global site selector company, to track market change data for us. So we're getting updated stats every couple of weeks on how the workforce is changing around us, how the economic conditions are changing around us. And as of right now, we've just started to have those stats roll in, starting to get regular updates on it. So we're going to be able to have really good intel on what's changing around us. Number 3, we put together a little brief package and sent it out to all the communities in the region saying, these are economic development practices, depending on your level of resources. So if you don't have very much time or very much capital to put towards this economic development, the economic recovery project in your community, here's what you can do. Here's a slightly bigger slate of things you can do. And this is the gold standard. Got that support out to people so that we could just demystify it, especially for the smaller communities that don't have trained economic development officers. And then the next thing that we're doing right now, I'm working with labor and immigration and economic development, trade and tourism, and we're trying to get a capacity matching and import replacement program off the ground. It's a matter of tapping into the grants. Government's been really good helping us get this done. I'm hopeful it's going through. What that'll give us is let us be able to hire some contractors to basically survey as many of the large employers in the entire region, all of South Central, kind of Western Alberta, the Southgrow region writ large, and find out who's lost service and industrial capacity because they've lost customers. So has excess capacity available, they've laid off employees, and who has grown because of this, who has actually increased their market share because of this. And when we start to map these kind of assets, we can start to put connections together. Okay, company A over here has lost all their oil field customers. They have huge shops and servicing bays. This other company in this other town here has actually increased demand for storage containers for the agricultural sector because trade has been disrupted and now they're selling containers like mad because everybody's storing. Well, we can put them in touch with each other. Hopefully there's a match and company A is able to rehire its workforce and get them back to work as fast as possible. Obviously, there's very good uses for that data long-term down the road. And an import replacement program in particular is considered best practice in the field we work in. Identifying where people are getting products or services from outside the region and matching them with another company that does so inside the region. And then our next step coming up this fall is to try to figure out how we get a labor attraction marketing campaign off the ground. And the key there is just going to be funding it, because we know we have a labor problem. We know the labor problem is going to grow in terms of just being able to provide the qualified people for the jobs. And frankly, this is a good problem. Southern Alberta is going to come roaring back from this faster than other areas of the province. So how do I know that? So just a brief run through of some of the numbers. The good news is that this crisis hasn't been as bad as a lot of economists thought it would be. As of the end of April, when we got the numbers coming out there, we saw that we were down about 3 million jobs across the nation, but economists were predicting it could have been 4 to 5 million jobs. Haven't got the May number yet. Hey, it's going to be higher, but still doing better than predictions thought we might do. The unemployment rate hit 13.4% provincially in April, which is up 4.7% from February. But down here in Southern Alberta, employment numbers at the end of April were actually better than a lot of areas of the province before the crisis hit. Now, that doesn't mean we're rosy. I mean, we did lose 7,600 jobs in April in our region. There's some good news and bad news in those numbers. A lot of those jobs were service sector jobs. They were part-time employment. And why is that good news? It just means that there's less money taken out of the economy because those jobs didn't pay as well. So we haven't pulled as much capital, fluid capital out of the economy. On the flip side of the coin, though, there was 1,300 jobs lost from the education sector, and those tend to be a lot higher paying jobs. So that's a heavy hit. So it's not all roses, and we do have some challenges ahead of us. There was some good news too, though. Industrial jobs stayed relatively level. We're down about 500 overall since February, which is not bad, showing the strength of our industrial sector, which is founded on that agri-food sector. There's jobs in things like technology and information services are up 900 as of the end of April, which kind of makes sense. We've all moved heavily onto tech platforms and are getting a lot more use out of them. And one of the biggest signs is that when I sit and I talk to my ec devs from the rural regions, they say that it's mostly business as usual out in the farming communities. There's been some trade disruptions, but people are still going to buy crops. The commodity brokers are still going to find an end customer, even if it's a bit more difficult, because people still got to eat. It's a hungry world, and that's the market that we tie directly into. Another good indicator is that jobs in the financial industry are also staying steady, indicating to me that there's a lot of confidence from the banks that they can ride this one out too. And while the construction numbers are down, we really see them surge in the very near future as stimulus funding starts to local projects. We're expecting the stimulus funding announcement from the government of Alberta any day now. It could be tomorrow. It could be later this week. More good news for the region. So the Technology Access Center at Lethbridge College, I'm hoping you heard about that. That was a big win for Southgrow. We are only one of the organizations that can take credit for getting that, but us and our partners are pulling on that, doing a heavy government relations campaign to Western economic diversification for a long time. Basically, we identified a while ago that in the agri-food ecosystem of Southern Alberta, there's a couple things we're missing. Number one is food processing technology development or product development, such as they have at the center up in Leduc. And number two is world-class convention space for that industry. So the advancements that are happening at Lethbridge College are helping us to kind of make up and jury rig that food processing technology and development support. Now we just need the provincial government with the big announcements to dump, say, $20 million into Exhibition Park and help get that project off the ground. And Southern Alberta will have its own world-class convention space for our primary industry. So what can you guys do? Well, Cardston's lucky in a lot of ways. You're a little bit insulated from all of this. You haven't had the same kind of numbers that other areas of the province have been hit with, and those are all good things. Use the task force. I know that Angel's been working on this and to get all of the resources and information out to your community members. But for every employer or employee in your region who you can help get plugged into the resources to support them to get onto the other side of this, okay, that's a win. And those wins build up. And if your staff is got a lot to do on their hands, which they always do, use these resources that we're able to provide. Number two, if you have the financial capacity to do so, and you are thinking of moving forward with an important infrastructure project that would enable economic growth, such as, broadband, I encourage you to take the risk and do it. I know you've probably heard the same advice from other people at this point. You know your books and I don't. And so you've got to make those decisions. But the spending the money now is a needed infusion of cash into your local economy. And then you will have the infrastructure on the back end of it to help propel an economic recovery and subsequent growth going on further down the road. If you're sitting down and talking with your MLAs, really make sure that you're pushing those shovel-ready projects that you might have in your region that you don't necessarily have the money to do, because all of the ministries in the government right now are looking for shovel-ready projects that they can dump stimulus spending into. I know Jeff been all over this, and Gary's told me that you guys have been in contact with the MLAs up in Edmonton. And of course, a project that's dear to my heart, which is a bit, down by the border there, but this really does benefit the entire region. If you have a chance to push Highway 3 twinning, we've got a once-in-a-generation chance to get a serious commitment to that project, which would really benefit all of South Central and Southwestern Alberta by giving us a better east-west trade corridor. Once again, I'm waiting for announcements any day. But if you have a chance tomorrow, you have 5 minutes to pick up the phone and call Joseph or call Grant or one of the other MLAs that represents our region. I would strongly encourage you to do it and ask that if you can, please do. We're so close on this. Anyways, I will be quiet now, and I'm very happy to answer questions about any of the things we've talked about or any other South-related issues that you might want to inquire.
Thank you, Mr. Casarella. Is there any questions for him?
No, I just would like to make a comment. Peter, I see that you are not busy enough with your little girl. And so thank you so much for that presentation. It's very enlightening to see how South Grow has changed as an organization, as a reader, and how much more interest it has generate and for the governments to really take that organization so seriously, that I would love to help you with grants. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much for your time and for presenting that to us. Good to know that there's resources out there for people that are trying to get ahead of the game on this economic problem we're having here. So thank you very much. Hey.
Pete?
Bye.
He's
See
hiding
you later.
my screen here. So.
There we go. All right. All right, let's look at 6B. I see a couple of residents from Home Seekers here. Look to see what we can do with the road they've got on that area. We talked about this a little bit last week, and you're going to maybe look at some ways of solving some of the problems, or what we can do or what we can't. And so we'll let you talk to that, Jeff, if you want to.
So we were in receipt of Doc Jones' letter a couple weeks ago. You asked that we go back and explore what the financial ramifications of local improvement tax to improve would be. So we presented those in your package with some large caveats, and one of those is we haven't assigned any community benefit to the project, except for the town has a few feet here and there, particularly on Mr. Preet's property. There's a cul-de-sac road planned to go in there, so we took the frontage of that cul-de-sac road and a couple other little pieces here and there, but pretty minor at this point. And so there's always a couple of questions that go along. We haven't presented this to the community yet because you wanted us just to bring some numbers back. And so we need to have some discussion on, before we present numbers to the residents, even if we just estimate at this point in time, roughly what the community benefit that needs to be allocated back to the town would be, and if you're willing to pay that.
Yeah.
So that's the other piece. And then what's our methodology for determining community benefit? And then after that, we would engage residents to see if there's interest. This one is particularly tricky, I think, because much of the frontage, some of those that have the largest portions of the frontage, I don't know if they'll be interested in that kind of an upgrade, but that's how local improvement works. It's in the hands of the residents to decide that, but we need to get better numbers to take to them. So it's really that community benefit piece that's the big piece to discuss right now.
Community benefit now. One of the residents called me today and suggests there's a lot of traffic on there. I don't know for sure. I know I use it once a week and I go out the dump. As for the rest of it, I don't know. These gentlemen could probably speak to it more than I could, but Madam Mayor.
Well, I had the chance to receive, well, a privilege to receive a phone call from Mr. Strang. And his understanding of that road has a little bit of history behind it. Because when he bought the lot that his house is built on, he said all what there was to access it was a trail. Over the years, people kind of dug out the dirt to make ditches and kind of dumped that on the top of that trail, along with gravel and other debris, to create a surface that was drivable. And of course, over the year, all that has compacted, but not very well. And every time it rains, it becomes a problem. So in particular, there's a third of the length that is pretty well broken and the base is extremely soft. And after a strong rain, it's really a mess. So the problem is with the traffic, and I brought that up last time, is that it appears to be that a lot of the traffic that is on this road is not local. There are trucks that are using that on a regular basis and going to the dump or somewhere else. There were horse trailers when the Rodeo Academy was really busy, and still there are still horse trailers going that way. And the problem is it's also the speed. That's where the speed that creates a lot of disturbance on a dirt road, creates a lot of dust clouds. So the other issue that Mr. Strang brought up is that to put money on a road that has a very poor base is maybe not the wisest use of money. So how do we go about fixing a problem that essentially has to do with the whole way that road came to be?
A similar problem, although on a shorter basis on 7th Avenue over here, with the same thing with the horse traders using that road up in that area there. We did build that road up a little bit, did we not? I can't remember the whole. Did cold pack it part way up there.
Yeah.
But was there charges to the landowners for doing that?
That wasn't a local improvement tax.
That was a local improvement one, okay.
It was or
It
wasn't?
was not, yeah. We haven't done a local improvement tax in my time in 12 years with the town.
Yeah. I guess part of the problem with that one, this one, is that one was relatively short amount of road we had to fix. This one's quite lengthy, so yeah.
The other issue is that when people bought their property, there was no local improvement tax to put a good road there.
Okay.
So the people who bought the properties maybe don't realize, some of them may realize, some others don't, that they never contributed to having a road. And so therefore now, if we are going to look into a partnership, it has to be a local improvement tax, obviously, because it never was paid up front like we do when we buy our houses. And the other issue that we have, will they want to do that? And if not, which means the road will have to kind of be dug out and reworked. How do we go about it when we know that that road is servicing the needs of the community in one way or another? Or do we stop somehow the traffic that's not local?
I think that'd be possible.
Right? It's impossible.
Yeah.
Therefore, if it's impossible, should we know how much traffic there is? I really believe that if we are going to start to look into it, we should know what kind of traffic there is. That would be helpful. And to be able then to determine what is our position as a town if 90% of the traffic is local.
Yeah, good question.
Just my position. I really honestly believe if it's used as a thoroughfare, then the town needs to start to look at it as that's a thoroughfare.
I would only suggest that my street is also a thoroughfare, 7th Street, because there's only 2 roads that go all the way through town. That's one of them.
Yeah, but at least
Again, it's a little bit of a different situation. My lot's not 10 acres and I don't have a huge frontage. But when I built my house, I paid for the pavement and I paid for all the services that went with it.
Yeah.
But you kind of choose where you build, and sometimes that location, you want the big yards, but it may not necessarily come with the same benefits that smaller yards may have. That's just my thought on it. I mean, I think we need to do something with that road. Like I say, I travel probably once a week, and it's soft at the front and the end, both sides. But the question is, how much do we do and how much do we spend on it?
So
How much is a residents willing to do with it?
my suggestion would be that administration round up all the people that live around there, put different proposal,
Yeah.
do a count on the traffic, have proper data to at least support their case, and go to the people and let them decide.
Now, this thing you gave us, Jeff, that's just dealing with pavement.
Hold on, let me jump back to that screen. So we put in 3 options, although 2 from a price perspective are very similar. We put just all included rebuilding the road base. So all 3 were digging out the road and building a proper road base. And then 1 was simply putting millings, 1 was oiling it, and 1 was paving it. And as you can see, I mean, the difference in cost between oil and asphalt is $160,000. You know, it's considerable.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just wanted to get an idea of the range. So Brandon looked at essentially digging out that whole road and then bringing in proper bedding, proper gravel, pit run, and
So
Yeah. Councillor Selk, you had a comment?
Said before that we face the same issue with that was development that was created by road was supposed to be completed a certain standard by the developer. So I'm not sure, was there a developer involved in this, or was it road is what it is? Built there knew what the road was.
it still doesn't change the fact that the traffic over the years, the pattern of traffic has changed, obviously. And because that pattern has changed, people have found it to be a thoroughfare. That become, in part, our problem.
I guess one thing
In part.
one thing me, but it doesn't really bother me, but of all the people on that street, probably the Joneses are gonna eat the dust more than anybody. They're closer to the road. The people on the south side won't get it as much because that's not the wind pattern. Just don't know if there's something we can do to even alleviate the amount of dust that's going into the Jones property. Some kind of like the county will sometimes put little short stretches of cold pack on to eliminate that dust. I don't know. I'm just trying to throw options out there. Councillor Brown, then the mayor.
I agree with what the mayor is saying. I think it's reasonable in fact, all of the through traffic, I had to go do a drive-by because I wasn't familiar with it, and a little bit of four-wheel driving, that was fun. But I feel like it is wise to go and speak to the landowners, hear what they're saying, because we're going from one letter, which we appreciate getting, but I think it's wise to go ahead and talk to the landowners so that each one of them can express their views, so we know what we're dealing with before we, like you said, we need to know how many vehicles, and we need to know it's not all these, 14 landowners. It's bigger than that, obviously, is what I'm hearing. So we need the data before we can jump in and make decisions that are as expensive as these ones are.
Okay, yeah.
And do some, maybe
Research.
do some research, do some data collection.
How would we do that research? How would you find out what kind of traffic patterns
to
are
get
going on down there?
somebody?
Couple of things. I mean, what we would probably do is physically put someone out there at specific times and dates. So we want to see what a Saturday looks like. We want to see what the morning traffic looks like. We want to see what so we would pick a couple of dates and somebody out there with a pad of paper and writing it down.
Okay.
In talking with Mrs. John, she was saying what she notices that the heavier traffic has become 5 o'clock on. And then that when a transfer station is open, there's more traffic there too.
That's the reason. Yeah.
So I think those would be
Yes,
interesting collection points.
Yeah, so you pick your strategic dates and times and count them a couple of times. And
So there has been a recommendation made. Do we vote on that?
yeah,
All that would accept that recommendation? By wave of hand. Councillors,
Yeah,
thank you. Okay, let's move on then.
Thank you.
Other businesses, we discussed briefly the AOMA situation, conference, hotel planning session. We're really up in the air about this because we don't know even know if there's going to be one for sure. I wouldn't suggest that we throw any money up to the hotels at this particular time. I mean, I don't know how they can suggest that we do that without any chance of recouping money if this thing is canceled. I don't know. Yeah.
I'll just throw out there, and it's the super first world problem, that if we don't start throwing non-refundable deposits on the hotels, we may just have to be staying on the south side and driving in for the conference each day. We've tried to be close because that's more convenient, but staying downtown Calgary anymore is getting
Too pricey.
tough.
Yeah. Well, we survived Red Deer when we had to travel a bit, so
We
we could
done
probably do the
we've
same
done
thing. Yeah.
that
I
before.
was gonna say that. I thought about Red Deer, and we had to drive from that, and it wasn't no big deal.
Okay.
And I thought, there's a lot of hotels on the south side. They're nice places. They're certainly not gonna cost that.
You can
Probably less than half.
so you can take taxis.
You might
for a lot
want to
less
check
than it's
into
gonna
that
cost a hotel.
ASAP and before everybody else gets the same idea. They probably have already anyway.
There's lots of nice hotels even up around the
No,
airport.
that's okay. Sorry, Councillor Brown was asking if we want a recommendation. What I would ask though, is if I could find something now outside of the downtown, do we want it for a planning session date as well? So do I book it the Monday night through the Friday?
But,
Yeah.
I think so. I thought that they were much more productive to doing it that way that we've been doing it the last couple of years. So I would say that.
Just make
And I
sure it's
make that
refundable, that's
recommendation.
all.
Yes.
Can we then make sure that somehow we would have engaged the public before we have
Yes.
that?
I like the idea that you brought up
We can
earlier.
make some decision with the public in mind.
I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, Mayor, for no good reason other just to play it. In the year 4 of your term, you need to look at your first 3 years and how you want to conclude things. What are you looking for from the public in year 4?
Yes.
Because it's very different than doing it in year 1 or 2. So I just want to throw that out. Are you wanting to take a completely different course of priority into year 4 than you have year 1 through 3? That's what I would throw out. what info are we seeking?
But, okay.
Haven't we done the homework? Haven't we talked to the people? I did.
That depends on the subject,
But
I guess. Yeah.
But isn't that why we were put on council? Is to ask the questions? I mean, every football game I go to, every soccer, every grocery store, they're hitting me up with what I need to be doing better. So I feel like I'm hearing a lot what people expect from me. So aren't we all in our last year? Don't we know kind of what people are after?
Councillor Lawrence?
I concur with Councillor Brown because I get the same questions too. And we have, I think we've dealt with those things over the past 2 or 3 years. You know, and I've been involved in 6 planning sessions so far. And I think that the conversations I've had with people is they've appreciated the fact that this information is out there for them on the public domain on our webpage. And we do publish that information out there, but I think it probably is a good idea maybe to put a questionnaire out there. You know, if there's something else that they might be interested in, it's not going to hurt. That's for certain, sir. But we do have a strategic plan that we've looked at over the past 3-4 years. And then, I mean, it's right up there. The planning that we did the first year,
That was a long time ago.
you know,
And this
but
one is passé.
I think that that's a good idea that we do that. But I agree with Councilor Brown because I get it all the time. They come to my office, for goodness sakes. I had one in there yesterday. I rate about golf rates.
Councillor Selk?
Okay,
So
I'll be like Jeff and play devil's advocate for just.
Are you playing devil's advocate on my advocacy?
Yeah.
Or what? What's happening?
Okay, well, I'll double dog dare Jeff on
All
this.
right.
How's that?
Okay.
Fair enough.
I think one of the main concerns that we had as a council in the very first part of our term was we were where we could to help with our issues on Main Street. Yes, the question I would ask myself and all of you ask yourselves is, have we done some, you know, we've tried things and some of them didn't work, and we've become comfortable with some of the things that have come to our attention through information, but have we really done all that we could to help with what we, I would like to say, let's go back and revisit. That's one of the main planning session priorities that I think address, refocus our attention on our energies and see what we can do going forward. I think that, and Jeff and I've had this conversation, I think we have someone who can help us out in that regard, and that he has confidant, counselor, you know, someone. A time with him when we can say, Charlie, here's what we think, but you got to help us with whether we're completely off base, what can we do? That's.
And his brother would be very helpful to
Right.
that.
And
Marcel.
I recognize that Marcel's in a little bit different position because he's actually on council. Charlie can give us lots of advice because he's
Works with this, responsible for this end
Okay.
of the reserve.
okay, as a Main Street business person, I think there has been progress made. It's not perfect by any means, but there is a lot. I think there's been progress, and when Constable Payne came last week, I thought that's a giant step forward, making this bylaw to get rid of or to suppress the gang involvement in our community. We've been talking about gang involvement since I was on council. It's just comes up all the time. And finally, a police officer comes and talks to us about it. And he come up with some great ideas. And I'm excited about that, what's going to go forward. And I think that will help an awful lot. Because I've watched those gang members. That's been the biggest problem that we've had on Main Street. And it's not just the locals coming in from from Moses Lake. A lot of those people, they're wonderful people. And I talk with them on the street all the time. But you've got that rough element, and those are the gangs. And I think if we nip it in the bud now, just get on it and get this bylaw in place, it's going to go an even longer way. And I think that and I agree with Councillor Selk, it is one of our priorities. We've got to continue to discuss it and tweak it and make it work. But I think it will happen with, you're going to give the police, the guys that are out there in the front lines, a lot more clout to be able to deal with the problem. And that's what we have to do.
But yeah, that's a little bit off topic what we're dealing with right now, but I
Yeah.
agree with what you were saying. We're dealing with planning session right now, something we could discuss during that.
Absolutely.
Councillor Sutton, Councillor Barnes.
I agree. However, it's not just a law enforcement issue.
Anything else?
Sort. I'm
Yes.
gonna just backpedal a little bit to save face with the mayor.
Oh,
First of all,
that's okay.
I really support the idea of you guys as councillors going to the public. I think it's a super cool idea that we advertise and say on Tuesday at 11, Councillor Drew will be at Extra Foods. You know, we just pick places of traffic where you can interact with people. And particularly if we have an agenda for a planning session 3 or 4 months hence, and you want to be asking questions at those things to get some feedback, I think that's a great idea. My only concern when I mentioned that was if you're just going wide open, where are you at with kind of your focus the last 3 years?
Yeah.
Have an agenda, it might do very well to say, you know, Councillor Brown, if the pool opens this year, Councillor Brown's going to be at the pool talking to public swim attendees for these 2 days. I think it's a super cool idea.
I like
really
it.
I'd like to see us do it.
Yeah, we are
I'd
just
be
about
willing
3
to do
years
it.
into our term, and to reinvent the wheel for the last year is probably not going to work. But I like the idea of definitely discussing public's perception of what's been going on. I like that idea as well.
It was really, if you don't mind me, it was not reinventing the wheel. It was a way to really come to understand, is there something we have missed here?
Yes.
Yeah. So Councillor Bengry's been awful quiet.
I
I'd
was
like
just,
to hear
I was
from him.
just saying, I was just looking at him thinking that too. Be
Hold
quiet.
on.
He's really
I can get
quiet
him.
now.
I can get him.
Finds it.
I have to do it on his end. Hold your space bar, Councillor.
Turn your sound
There
on,
you go.
Councillor.
You're good now.
How's that?
Good.
Good.
No, I'm taking in everything that's happening. I'm concerned about the strategic planning. I'm with the mayor in the fact that we need to gather information from our public, and I agree with Councillor Barnes and Councillor Brown. But at the same token, we can get complacent in the idea that we are serving the public, and the mayor has brought out the thing that we can't be complacent. We've got to contact the public and say, look, now you're rocking chair almost critics, but what can we do for you? What's there? What's your biggest concerns? Is it infrastructure? Is it recreation? What are you concerned about? Is it sidewalk upheaval and cleaning the town, or what are the concerns? And I think we've become complacent in the fact that we're discussing a lot of things, but do we really hit the nail on the head? Are we spending enough time to really come to a dedicated end to all our discussions?
Okay.
So I mentioned this before, but the ECDev committee invites a grant that we haven't for a couple months because of COVID, but the ECDev committee invites a business to come to our meeting every single talk about their issues and what they think. So we are doing some
So that's good.
Yeah.
And also, I'll probably be at the tennis courts this week painting a couple more pickleball courts. If anybody wants to stop by and bend my ear, I'm all for it. Go ahead.
And I think a lot of us like Councillor Barnes, he's on Main Street all the time, but I'm up and down Main Street a couple of times a week going into different businesses, talking to them about a few things, what's going on, how's things going. And I think it's not like we're hiding in our closets at home, but I think something more formal might be nice as well. Yeah, Councillor Brown.
So, sounds like we all agree. It's a great idea. So if we were to wrap this up in a cute little bow, do we need to make a motion to this?
A
But,
recommendation.
or recommendation?
The public.
Yes, to have a
Oh, I
public.
see.
Outreach,
How do you want that?
public
that's-
engagement.
We need to come up
That's a
with an
good
agenda.
question.
We're gonna do it. Let's get her
Yeah.
done.
So do you want to do it relative to an agenda you set now? Or do you just want to get the structure set up?
Let's start.
That's my chicken and egg for you. Do we want to say, here's our agenda for our planning session. Now we're going to go to the public and we're going to inquire on the public context on these issues. Or do you just want to start generally going out? I'm good either way, but you might want to establish an agenda.
Yeah, I don't think we want to be changing things too much on our planning session because
Yeah,
so I would like it more as an information thing for the public to tell me what they're thinking, whatever we've been doing, what we've been doing right, what we've
Can I
been
make
doing
the
wrong.
motion?
I like the idea of being visible. Councillor Drew?
I guess my concern is if it's an open agenda and people come to us and they start saying, we want this, we want that. We've already set our budget.
Right.
We already know what money we have
Right.
and don't have.
Right.
And so that's to me just a little dangerous because the perception will be that our community thinks, well,
No.
here's a forum. I can tell them I want this. And if we get 20 of those items that are the same, they're going to. Just my concern.
strategic planning by nature is a long-term vision of something.
Yeah.
With goals that can be realized short-term, mid-term, long-term. And we always have kind of looked at it that way. So if we're engaging with the public, it's certainly not to change our budget this year. It's for the future. It's the next budget, the next 3 year, the next 5 year capital. That's kind of long-term vision that we need to start to push forward if we want to have anything of interest coming our way. It's not what we have done fully. It's what in the future that could be of interest that we have council, this one or the next one, we'll have to kind of look and establish, is that going to be a priority of council, yes or no? It's not because people say, I want this, I want that you're going to give it to them. It has to work within the framework of the fiscal restraint.
I guess one of the maybe weaknesses of the council system is after next year, there may be 7 new people sitting here with total different priorities. We've talked to the public and they've told us what we want, but that may not be what they're looking at. But we still need to know. I like the idea of not necessarily bring up new things like a covered pool or whatever.
No.
But just to find out what they're thinking, just so we're available so they can talk to us.
For example, there is something, you're talking about the agenda item. Could be safety in our town. That could be the theme. Do better, or what can we teach you to do better with your property? We have all those pamphlets. It could be, for example, this month we're going to distribute as many pamphlets about securing your home as we can, so that we start to see the property crime go down. There's no reason why the property crime should be that high. And it's because people are careless about their property. They're not securing it right, or they don't realize that this tree in that direction is maybe not well placed, creates shadow. Things like that could be useful for the public. Maybe that's what we do. The first agenda is safety. And we work with the RCMP, try to see how they can help us.
Right. Yeah.
But we have done that, and you and me and 10 other people that showed up for that meeting have secured our homes.
Right.
But
Because
the
they came
other
to us.
3,000 people that did not come to that.
Right. We go to them and we inform them. If they're there on the front of our nose, we have a chance to at least educate them. You know, it's very funny. We're no longer in a world where people come to us. We go to the people.
Yeah.
It's a very upside down world when it comes to information. It's no longer, I want information, therefore I'm going to come. No, I want information and you're going to feed me. It's more the world we're in.
Are you saying, when you say, so in wrapping that with the talking to the people, like
Could
us throughout the town, or counselors spread out throughout the town, like you were saying. So is that what you're wanting? Like, so, or is
No,
it
I
our
don't want-
strategic plan?
It can have many different facets, right? It could be one area could be educating the population how to secure their town. Another time could be more about long-term planning.
Okay.
And maybe it is not the right time. Maybe Jeff is correct. Maybe that's for the next council. But I'm sure there are agenda on council that come, bylaws, things like that. Do you know how that will affect you?
I appreciate your comments on taking it to the public, but a guy also comes to mind that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So we may be out there and we may see 2 people in 3 hours, or we might see 100. I don't know. It's difficult to get the lethargy out of people sometimes. They just like to cruise along, and I'm one of them, so I know what I'm talking about here. But
I would like to make a recommendation.
Okay.
I would like to make a recommendation
yes,
that council, on a set date, will go out to the community with our strategic plan, because we don't just want to willy-nilly it, like what I'm hearing from council. That's the right word. Is that what we're saying?
Quite specific with what's going on.
We don't want to, I mean, and while we're there, if you want to talk to me about dogs, I'm going to hear you.
Yeah, you're gonna get everything.
Yeah, you'll
Right?
get it
But
anyway.
I feel like it is important that we have
so
an idea put forward so that they can come and be willing to talk to us about our strategic plan. I believe that's what I'm hearing from council.
Yep.
That's it.
So we're really looking at 7C here, strategic priorities, and we want to talk to people about, or we want to hear from them. So is there anything else on 7C that we need to discuss, Jeff? Did you want to go over some of that stuff? Safety and security bylaws.
You have a resolution.
Oh, sorry. Recommendation.
Resolution.
No.
Recommendation resolution. I'd like a call from Councillor Brown. All in favor of that recommendation?
Recognize we're going to be a little bit constructive with the wording on that, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, you betcha.
All right. We
Right?
got, yeah.
Did you willy-nilly it?
We've got the word master sitting over here, so we're good.
Right? She made me sound fabulous, I bet.
We'll
Like
compare.
Mercer talking to Americans during the
Yes.
I'm just the bobblehead.
See where we're at here.
Okay, Jeff, strategic priorities, is something you want to deal with on all that?
It was just, I had some updates. Hold on, let me get there. You had a project schedule in there too, I think. If your 2020 project schedule in there, if there's any questions.
Yes.
Okay.
We're coming to the end, aren't we?
Well,
Yep.
Doesn't feel like that at all. No. We're down a backhoe, and so that's hurting for another 10 days or so. On your strategic priorities, it was just, there was some updates, particularly, I think we're getting closer to the school division agreement. Back and forth on that again.
Quick question. Yeah, wanted to ask, how's the going live with our solar? How does that happen? What's going on?
Sure. So we went live on Friday afternoon for about a minute and a half, and then it went dark again. And then we went live. So I'll give you a quick update on that.
Traffic in and out of there,
So
so.
Solar went and phoned and said, hey, we're going to go live in an hour. I said, oh, we're ready. Yeah, things came together a little quicker, so we might as well. It's a sunny day. Let's go. So Shem and I went up there. The electricians had to go up there and monitor the amperage on the lines and everything as it all came on. So there's 30, and I'm going to schedule a tour for you all, by the way, as well. We'll go up 30 inverters, and they get putting them all on, and Leonard's watching the amperage start to come up on the transformer, and so things are buzzing and humming, and the guy's working on the last inverter, and he closes the box, and bang, everything goes dark. I mean, it was light out, but nothing was doing anything anymore. So there was just what it ended up is we hung out for a while, and they had all their technicians there and on the phone, and we finally came back to the office, but I texted them on the way home, and it was simply a setting on the main breaker. And so they got it sorted out, and so it's been going since Friday afternoon. Leonard said he went up and checked this morning. He said it's actually pretty interesting. So he said on our main, there's a name for it, I forget it, darn it. On our main box that comes in from Fortis, so it measures the amperage that's flowing through that box into the town. And Leonard said normally on a day like this, it'd be at about 60 amps is what's coming in continually. With the solar farm going, it was at 8.
Oh, wow. That's a good thing.
Yeah, he said it's running at about 8 amps today is all, because it's a sunny day and the solar farm's churning.
All right.
So he's pretty excited about it. He says the number, I mean, when I was there, we made $50 in the time I was there. That was all. And our first payment had to come out today. So we didn't quite cover the first payment. I'll be honest with you. It wasn't, we were a little short on that payment, but
Just a little.
yeah. Well, it was so cool to watch the scale of it. When they turned it on, again, before the breaker went, it started going, and we got up to a kilovolt, and I'm like, okay, kilovolt at 5 cents a watt. Hey, that's $50. And we had like $52 and it shut down, but I got to watch that. So
Now it's moving along good.
yeah, it seems we haven't had any issues since then. They were just doing the communications. So what we'll be able to do is in the office, we can log on and see the performance of every panel. Not that we're going to examine 4,700 panels, but we can see what it's doing at any given time. And there's also a public side to that too, right? So the public can go on and say, oh, today it hit a peak of, and it's done a total of in this amount of time. And those things. So
Mr.
yeah,
Chair.
it's kind of cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jeff, when we had the first project, phase 1, we did a little bit of a communication piece with for the public.
Yeah.
And we maybe do something like that.
Yeah, what we're thinking with COVID and all the restrictions is we were going to do a video of having the contractor there. Maybe have you come up and put a little video together of everything. They still have some landscape work to do. There's still some earthworks to do and things like that. So, but the wiring was done so they could fire. Yeah, we'd like to do some kind of piece that we can put out on social media. That schedule. It just so happens the contractor, the main guy, lives in Cardston for the next couple of months. So
Perfect.
he's around for us to schedule a tour with you guys. And if COVID restrictions can lift a bit, maybe, and even now we could look at doing some. Still love to do stuff in the fall to schools.
Yeah.
And to get them involved, and I don't want to say disappointing in any way. There's not as much to see when you go up there as one might think. Got a great big green box with all the electronics and rows of panels. That's what it is, right? So, but it's still pretty neat. It was a lot of fun to go up there, and they could talk about it and show all the things it can do.
Great.
But it's running, so we'll see how it goes.
How many panels do we have now?
It was about 4,780 or something like that.
A lot
I
out
need to
there.
find it's downstairs, but yeah, it's a lot of panels. Yeah.
Anything else on this strategic priorities updates, anything else?
Not that I recall.
Let's go to correspondence then. Are there any questions, I guess, on what we've been discussing today?
I want to circle back. I know it's 7:00 and we didn't bring you food.
6A.
Do you want to circle back? I need to know what to do with the Tourist Information Center. Is there any further discussion on the garbage bylaw?
You guys are going to do the changes according to the discussion.
I could interpret from it.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
sure.
Fair enough.
Sure.
Any problems with it opening on the 19th? Are we going to see enough bodies come through?
That's what I'm
I kind of hoping they'd wait till after the border's open. That's only 2 days later, maybe. What do we do if the border doesn't open?
Right. Huge issue.
I mean,
But again, looking ahead, if they decide to not open the border, do we still go ahead with opening the tourist information? Not the people that are coming through the border, so.
Right. I think it's exactly to your point. Gerry mentioned 50% are US travelers, and they are the one who seem to need
Right.
the those who travel from this province or even from adjacent provinces don't seem to have the same need.
I guess all we can do is wait and see what happens. I don't.
Well, so there's two other ramifications to this. One is a financial one. We took the money out of the budget. So it now appropriated amount because we're I was looking at some options at your council approved operating. You got 50,000 there. And reduce take from reserves. So for example, and this one's always been interesting to me, we've had a tourism signage reserve since I started working for the town for an amount sufficient to cover off the year's contract with Gerry.
Well, then you know where to take it from.
That one's been kicking around for
That's where we need to take it from.
Yeah.
so we have some existing reserves that probably, I don't want to assume your priority, but they're probably not high priority.
Yeah.
So there's ways we can fund it.
Yeah.
I also think, Councillor, that we would know the date of the opening before the day of the opening of the border. I would have to think there was some announcement 2 weeks before or a week before that we would know. I don't think they're just going to decide on the day of.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Okay. I have one other question I'd like to just bring up that Mr. Casarella talked about, the broadband. Can you tell me what's going on out at Etna? As far as broadband goes?
Oh, I have no idea.
Because Gibb Schaefer talked to me yesterday, said they got this line going in there, gonna have broadband, and I'm thinking, wow. And he's talking about if we got a little bit of money, that might be a good place to put some of it right now. Got any information on that, Councillor?
Sure. So the community of Etna got some money from parties and partners. So while they were opening up the community for
The bear is a cable.
they're throwing fiber optic cable in the same ditch.
Are we still interested now? We talked about it and we've had people present to us. Just a question. I guess we can think on that a little bit more, but.
So are we finished talking about the Tourist Information Center? Did we wrap that up?
I feel like I'll talk to Jeremy about when we're comfortable the US border is going to open, and if it coincides with the 19th, I'll bring you a funding option to council for a resolution.
Okay.
Is that a fair wrap
Yeah,
up?
I just wanted to make sure we had an answer.
Thank you.
All right, so Councillor Bengry.
My internet connection is not very good, so I keep flashing in and out. I hope you can hear me.
That's funny.
So we need fiber?
Yeah.
With this COVID-19, let's remember something, that if we can't get across that border into Glacier Park and so forth like that, my wife and I are interested in traveling throughout Alberta and British Columbia. So we're going to be looking at tourist information centers. We're going to be looking at sites that we haven't seen before. And maybe we should consider that. Now, I don't know about Councillor Selk, but maybe we need to start advertising our town a little bit heavier on the things that we can offer the provincial people, you know, our residents throughout Alberta, because I don't know, I don't think that everybody knows what history is in Cardston. And we need to get that out there right now so that everybody doesn't go across that border to Many Glaciers or to Glacier Park. That's just a thought.
I think we've done that in the past quite a bit, Councillor, trying to sell, being on the Historical Society here. I know we try to sell it all the time. Sometimes people just see us as a place to get a burger and keep on going but if we can get some way of keeping them here, it'd be nice as well.
With no summer theater this year, that hurts. That
Yeah,
hurts the travelers. through town.
the lack of summer theater is going to be an issue.
Any more discussion on the garbage bylaw? Have you got that kind of where you want to be?
If you don't mind, just let me look at my notes real quick.
The only thing we haven't decided is about the lumber.
The yard waste, should we
Precious.
simply prohibit it or should we still allow small bundles at the curb? I don't think that's a make or break for anybody, but
I would get out of that bylaw.
are you, oh, sorry, let's establish that and then we'll go from there.
Hey, I agree with the mayor. I don't think people should be putting lumber and branches into the normal garbage stream at all. They need to, either they have a pit in their backyard to burn it for hot dog roast, or they take it up to the dump and put it on the burn pile. I don't think that Darcy should have to be dealing with people's, construction materials overload or that they've.
I don't think we should be
waste
telling them
product. I don't think they should have to do that. And I don't like the idea of hiding it in garbage bags. I think that we need to just take that and deal with it at the burn barrel. I don't like to see it get thrown into the landfill.
We've been dealing with the Mr. Nice Guy syndrome.
Pardon me?
Darcy's just too nice of a guy. But some little old lady will put out a bag of grass, he'll take it and away he goes.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
we
know,
need to
but
toughen up a little bit.
he's got to stop, and that we have to
Too nice of a
educate the
guy.
people it's not going to happen anymore.
Any other comments on that? We are in agreement that we don't want the lawn yard stuff going out.
No.
That's one trade we get.
The boulevard.
Recommendation on that piece?
Boulevard boxes,
Get rid of them.
get rid of them.
Okay.
I know there's-
We'll draft something, we can debate that.
Something at my neighbor, they're gonna howl about it. I've seen one up there.
Are you,
They're a bit unsightly.
feel you're on side with this notion of if we're going to go pick up on private property, that we assess the need of that on the property?
And
and
a
sign
waiver would be important,
Mhm.
yeah.
Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Cardboard, I'm not 100% where we're at with that because it's so complicated. But, so I'm not sure where you guys are with that before we draft that.
I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know the market is not good. It would be the best if they could recycle it properly. But if we are intending to leave it in that bylaw as pickup, then it needs to be properly bundled up, probably flattened, probably bundled up. He should not have to go pick up one box of here, one box there. It's crazy, makes no sense.
Best that we, Darcy will pick it up, or are we gonna suggest?
If it's
that
in
it
a
needs to-
bag, I'd say fine.
Needs to be recycled. We need to recycle it, bale it, and then burn it.
Well, no, it's not
Right.
really what I said. I said, if,
That's not it.
it's not exactly what I said. I said, if people are not going to bring it to the transfer station, to be, or to go in the cardboard bins, if we want to keep the recycling and let it go into the waste, it needs to be flattened and needs to be bundled up.
Like the one thing that I think there's still a hope there, although we haven't heard from these guys from once. They were going to bring in a machine
Recycling. Yeah.
that would take all of our garbage and then
It is,
biofuel.
yeah.
I
Mhm.
think it's still our that we would
Say
like
what?
to see that happen. Well, it's
Yeah.
like say what, but it's not say what.
It'd be on a local level, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
different company.
micro.
Are there any other companies that are doing that?
They was the big one. Fulcrum is sort of a small company. Reach out and have agreements with also.
All right.
I'd still like to see some incineration. I'd like discussion on that. If it's not,
Incineration.
well, if it's not in the provincial statutes that it can't be done, I think we need to look at it. It would, if we got no other source of recycling, I think we need to look at that.
We definitely have to look at a way of containing it. I mean, there's burning wood's one thing, burning paper is a total different animal because it floats. Lies.
No,
It's,
cardboard's
it's
different.
dangerous.
If you have it in a
actually used
screened
out
in
of the
thing, it
landfill.
works.
Yeah, and it's,
Yeah.
it's good for the soil, but
Yeah, well, the wood ash is used as a cover at the landfill. The cardboard ash would just.
Anything else?
He talked about, he was asking about timeframes being set earlier. There was some concern about doing that too early.
I would think.
No.
Hey, oh, right here.
Yeah.
I think it should be 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. He
No.
wants it on. He asked for it. You don't think so?
Nope.
He asked for it 8 o'clock.
in this
At
town,
8:30.
this
Okay,
town
fine.
is 1/3 of the
8:30.
people
It's half
being-
an hour. Great.
Yeah.
8:30 then. But I'm saying I would like a time stipulated. And the
Most
other,
retired people don't get out of bed that early, so.
no, 1/3 of the population is elderly, you know.
second part of my hand being up was rate for the extra large buildings. He talked about there needing to be, so I feel like
Well, there is units assigned to certain, Jill and I were just Skyping back and
Oh,
forth
okay.
on that actually.
okay.
We'll sort that out, make sure that's
Okay.
clear before we bring formal
Okay.
amendments. I
Okay.
think that's fine.
Okay.
I think we can clarify that easy
Okay.
enough.
Okay. Because he brought it up and it was a concern, and so I felt like
Yeah, I think we're okay on that. If we
Okay.
just tweak, it's normally applied to commercial and industrial properties, but I think it's being applied there. And if the bylaw isn't supporting that in the wording, that's an easy fix. We're
Okay.
gonna work on
Thank
that.
you.
Correspondence is Lidstone and Company. You can read that great big long missive they put in there if you want on articles of interest that might be interest to you. AUMA conference resolutions. Been there, done that. Any questions on that? If there is AUMA, we'll. And the Old Man Watershed Council General Update. What were they looking for on that? Were they looking for people to
Nothing
join?
there. Well, oh yeah, actually it was their newsletter plus something. Here, 1 second.
But I will not have the.
Yeah, they're looking for somebody.
Looking for nominees
Yeah,
to set the watershed.
I won't have the
Yeah,
AGM.
that's right.
If you're interested, you can let them know. If there's nothing else, I promise not to say this. I think it's gonna be a quick meeting tonight. I won't ever say that again because it seems like it is.
Quick meeting, yeah.
We'll take one more hand up for.
I'll move to adjourn.
Oh, sorry. Is there any confidential items?
No.
Okay. Move to adjourn. All in favor? Adios. Councillor Drew, this is all yours next time we meet as a CCW.
Councillor Court,
September.
thank you very much.
You got
I have
lucky,
put my
Steve.
little thank you in
Yeah,
my little
seriously.
blurb. My last video, I don't know if you saw that.
I haven't watched it all the way through. No.
Okay, the last item is thanking you
Okay, thank you.
and welcoming
Way to go.
Councillor Drew. Thank you